Hey, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of the State of Flow podcast with me, Lena Kermode. And this episode is going to be all about doing less, achieving more, and really feeling your best. So let's dive into it. Basically, it's a continuation of the podcast episode. I think it was number 10 I did a few weeks ago on the real pandemic stress. And those of you who know me or know my work or have worked with me previously know that regardless on what we're working on, one of my first steps to come back to with clients is to look at their stress levels in life and where we can alleviate. Because stress ultimately is the number one root cause of any kind of imbalances we can experience, not just in our health, mentally and physically, but also how we perform and how success looks for you or for ourselves. And so, this is what this episode is going to be about. Because as we reduce our stress, we become more efficient. I'm sure that potentially, especially these days, with all this madness going on in the world, with the pandemic and a lot of things, it has brought with it some positive and a lot of overwhelming things for a lot of people. So it potentially can be a time where many of us experience more stress than usual, and it will affect our vibration and it will affect how we work and feel on a day-to-day basis and what we achieve. I'm sure many of you have had those days where you're so busy just doing something, you get this major to-do list of getting through things, and like at the end of the day you've been doing something all day long that you haven't actually stopped, but you've been so inefficient. And ultimately that comes back to stress. If we just remember that stress starts on a way more subtle level than we're aware of, and we normalize it so that very often we're not actually aware of that we're even experiencing stress, because being in this really high alpha brainwaves, this fight and flight, this alert state, is a state in which many of us spend a lot of time. And the more we hang out there, the more it becomes our new home and our new normal, and our nervous system doesn't actually know anymore, has a hard time to actually really wind down. And, I constantly see that with my clients coming into my practice, whether it's for body work or for coaching. Like I said, the first thing we will look at is stress levels. And I get a question about stress levels on my initial questionnaire. And I find that more often than not, most of the people will put down, oh yes, stress levels 3 or 2 from a 1 out of 10. And their whole neck and shoulders are tensed up, and they have anxiety and they can't sleep, and they do binge eating or whatever it is, or they simply can't be where they want to be. And then we actually look deeper into what's going on in their life, and it turns out that they're working 60 plus hours a week, that they have 2 or 3 children, that they're a single parent, or their partner's working 5-0, or they're running 3 businesses at the same time as an entrepreneur, or there's someone who tried to turn their passion into a business while having the family, while working a full-time job. Well, all of these options sound pretty damn stressful to me. If we compare it to going back into the hunter and gatherer days, and amazing book to listen to is Sapiens, incredible audiobook or reading it. But basically back then we didn't have much to do when we were still nomads or hunter-gatherers. There wouldn't be much to maintain, because we didn't have such an accumulation of things and this kind of principle of ownership and keeping up with the Joneses that we have these days. Back then everyone sat together in a meal with the whole tribe, with the whole family, that has been prepared with love, and time has been spent in just our living tasks. But they've been ritualized so much that they actually saved a lot of time, and even while doing certain things still had a good time or made it a ritualized and meditative practice. Those tribes would go out for the first half of the day to hunt and gather, and then they would be back in the early afternoon, cook up a big feast for everyone for lunch, and then chill out for the rest of the afternoon, play with the kids, entertain each other, relax, just do their thing. And actually the life quality that way was a lot better. And those things that they did do, they actually did with a lot more stamina and energy, and performance quality because they weren't as overbooked as we are these days, and their nervous systems weren't as strung out. And so let's look at a few things, 8 steps with which we can do less, achieve more, and feel our best. So, we are living in this really high pace, fast and vast Vata kind of world where it's all about keeping up with the Joneses or ticking off all those to-do lists that are often endless. Especially my Pitta Vata folks out there will know what I'm talking about, and that's probably a struggle many of us go through every day, and that can often lead to those feelings of feeling like you're never doing enough, that you are not enough, that you're not achieving enough, that there's not enoughness is really triggered by overloading ourselves with tasks and responsibilities and taking on all these things that are probably amazing things. And even if they light us up, if we take on way too much and that it's just bringing overwhelm, we won't actually be able to give our 100% into all those things and perform the way we want to, and it ultimately won't make us feel the way we want to either. So, step number 1, to do less, achieve more, and therefore feel your best. It's a thing. It sounds so counterintuitive, but it is a thing, as you would have gathered by now. When you do something, do it right. Otherwise, there's no point in even starting it if you're actually, if it's actually meaningful to you in one way or another. So number 1, get clear on your priorities. So ask yourself, what do you really need to do? And also, what lights you up and what doesn't? And can what doesn't light you up go? So in terms of what do you really need to do? For example, I'm one of those fellow Vata Pitta people as well. And if I'm not conscious of it, I can find myself quite often and quite easily feeling, even though I'm doing my morning practice, and then I'm like, okay, cool. So today I gotta go out and buy those teas and buy those products, and then I gotta come home and I gotta record 5 podcasts, and I also gotta do my studies, and then I get a couple of clients, and then I do this and that and this and that, and I feel like I have to be busy all day long, and it doesn't even calculate in having a lunch, having a dinner, and having just some downtime for me and with my partner, having some quality time when he's coming home. So it's a super over-exaggerated list already. And if I then really feel into those things, okay, hang on, I'm way ahead of myself. What do I actually need to do right now? Okay, cool. So I gotta record at least 2 podcasts because my timelines are coming up and my deadlines are coming up. And I need to do at least 1 study assignment because it's due tomorrow. Perfect. My clients are free tomorrow and the day after. There's no rush with getting those materials because I don't actually have any more time for creation today as it is, so I might as well do it another day. And that leaves me with just comfortably doing my studies, doing my podcast today, and then having plenty of time for actually calculating in life and doing lunch and dinner and having some downtime and quality time. You see what I mean? I find so often, and that can be for various reasons, that we think we have to do all these things, and quite often it's just for the sake of doing it instead of an actual need of accomplishing something, if that makes sense. So that first step is really getting clear on those priorities and meeting them with discernment. Okay, what's actually important and what's kind of made up bullshit because you're really just doing it to do something. My mom is the major great example for that, and I get a lot of those qualities from her, and not saying that they're not changeable, which we know with Ayurveda that we can do a lot with lifestyle and dietary changes and change our habits by supporting that. But she is such a little cute Vata Kapha individual, and she would just run around like crazy all the time. Like, she was working full time doing business administration and things and running her own business while we were growing up, and she was an incredible mom. But she would all day, even when we have visitors or if it was for us or in her business, she would just run around like a headless chook and just, quickly got to clean up the kitchen and wipe down the surfaces and oh, before I lay down with the book, I might just go into the kitchen and make a tea. And then, oh, while I'm here, I might as well quickly do this and that and put this out of the way because my OCD is coming in. Okay, now I'm sitting half an hour with the book. Oh, my phone is here. I might as well check the emails. Okay, that gets me back to work. Okay. And she would just keep running around all day just doing things because she's so used to doing things. And she's also very much vata and potentially at the time not very aware of that. That's a kind of imbalance. If many of us are like that because our society is very, very vata prone and vata driven, meaning there's a lot of overstimulation coming out, going on through billboards, through information, through all sorts. And that just triggers us up into this alert and fight and flight mode. And before we know it, we respond to that with the same kind of overwhelm. And we keep running around thinking we got to do all those things because the environment is triggering that in you, not because it's an actual need. And she's been so used to finding her contentment or her sense of achievement through running around and keeping busy all day that it turned into this just doing things for the sake of doing them. Even this, in Australia, it's a big, hey, how you going? And people are like, oh, yeah, keeping busy. Oh, yeah, that's good, mate. It's always good to keep busy. Doesn't matter with what, but keep busy. It's a good thing. Like, as long as you're busy, you're not a lazy person, Like, no one is going to come up to us and be like, hey, Lena, congratulations for laying on the couch and reading your books for the last 3 days and having a good rest. Here's your certificate. Amazing. Well done and looking after yourself and taking it easy. Has never happened. Should happen. Instead, it's like, oh man, well done. You're working 80 hours a week. Like, you're a really hard worker. Good on you. You're a really good person. You got to be really successful. Like that we automatically assume that hard work automatically means success, and success means hard work. And in the same sense that, we have kind of lost this realization of that we can have contentment through doing less. It's we as a culture aspire to do the thing and accumulate the thing in order to have success, in order to have the money to pay the mortgage, to have the house, to do those things, to have all that material stuff, to be in a position that then allows us to be content. Right? So we put our contentment at the end of the chain and make it dependent on status or material things or career or, certain ambitions in that sense. And we've really forgotten that, you could actually just go for a nature walk, take a day off comfortably, instead of going shopping an afternoon and spending all this money that you don't have. If you're working less, you go out into nature, sit under a tree with a beautiful cuppa. And how are you going to feel in that moment as the sunshine is going to shine on your face and, you hear the birds singing around you and you're feeling the ground beneath your feet and the grass, and how would you feel in that exact moment? Contentment? Right. So we choose our feelings from moment to moment, and it's really, the saying of like, it's about the journey, not the destination. It's an absolute thing. Like, where's the point if you're struggling for your destination? If you put that into context of life, struggling on your journey, and life is your journey, where is your destination? After retirement at 80 years old, once you're on your deathbed, is that your destination? So if you've been struggling for the entire journey, you are missing the point. So that's why it's so important to really get clear on our priorities. What do you really need to do in any way, whether that's for your business, whether it's privately, whether it's as a mother for your kids, whether it's for yourself, and really become aware of, are you busy just for the sake of keeping busy, or are you actually doing things that are contributing to your own personal contentment and happiness and what you define as a quality life for yourself? So meet those things with discernment. And then, of course, once you've decided then get clear on what is lighting you up that you're spending your days with. Can be really simple things like, if maybe your happiest moments are actually cuddling your dog in the morning, or having your morning cuppa, or your morning yoga practice, or your afternoon swim or nature walk, or just hanging low reading a book, or having quality catch-ups and times and conversations with your friends and loved ones, then beautiful. How can you implement more of that, what's making you feel good? Maybe even cooking a nourishing meal, doing art, playing music, anything. How can you bring more of that joy factor into your life? And what can go instead? What doesn't light you up? And then from those things that don't light you up, discern, okay, what is still necessary? Because of course, there's some things we need to do to pay our bills and do all the things in order to, meet our basic human needs, to then actually feel content and happy and have this calm and peace of mind. But what are the things that are not lighting you up and they're actually also not necessary? For example, scrolling your Facebook feed for an hour, that doesn't actually make you feel good, wastes a whole lot of time, which is freaking precious time because we could have used it for something that actually really lights you up. Beautiful. So once you get clear on those priorities, another step is to learn to say no. Stop overbooking yourself. Another thing goes along with that our society values being busy so much, and not being busy is being looked at, oh, this person is never doing anything, what are you doing in your life, kind of thing, which is a total misconception, and it actually drives a lot of things into the wrong direction, if you ask me. Like, we have a lot of mental imbalances going on, like anxiety, insomnia, overwhelm, worrying, depression, and they're all things that hands down don't need to exist. And of course we're all going to have some low days and we're all going to feel nervous on some time in our life, but just to this extent they're existing these days, that they are actually classified as a disorder, as the most common disorders and mental illnesses out there that are so frequent. Like 1 in 2 or 3 people has suffered from anxiety or depression at some point in life. And in order to be classified as depression or anxiety, you must have been in this state for 2 weeks. Anyways, that's a fully different topic, but they're all things that really don't need to exist, and we kind of create them through our lifestyle and through our societal conditioning. So it can be really hard for many of us to slow down. And that's why there are those keys and those things we can implement to help us individually. So all that being said, learn to say no. Stop overbooking yourself. We tend to wanting to be busy and quickly say yes to things, either to please people or to, help someone out, or to be busy, or to think, or sometimes our ego kicks in of like, yeah, I can totally do that. And great, you can do a lot of things. There's probably a million different things that you can do and that you can do very excellently, but it doesn't mean you have to do them right now. You already have a life, you already have things going on, you probably already have things you are passionate about, you probably already have ideas still in your head that you haven't even realized yet because you are already too busy. Why would you take on something else if you don't actually have the capacity to it? And then so often we think like, yeah, but I really want to help this person out. Well, if you think about it, honesty is sometimes the harsh truth is better than lying. And in the same sense, this goes, it's better to say no and be honest about, and since I started doing that, it has just opened up new avenues for me. And I have started doing the things that I'm doing with 120% because I have more energy and more commitment for them by saying no to something else. Every time you say yes to something, you automatically say no to something else because we only have so much time and so much energy. But you are better off when it comes to, I want to help this person out. If you don't actually have the capacity to put 150% into that thing right now that you want to do for them, you're not really helping them by saying, yes, I can do it, and then it's going to be delayed, or it's going to be a little bit scattered, or not as good of quality as it could have been if that was your only focus. So you're better off to politely say, hey, look, I'm sorry, I would love to help you out, but at this point in time, I really have no capacity to take this on or to do this. And I think you're better off to find someone who's currently got the space and the passion and the drive to do this and will be 110% in, because I know I just can't be right now. And that honesty does way more and goes far longer, and they will appreciate it way more. then you juggling too many things, and you might actually lose people or projects or clients through that because the quality doesn't end up the way it should. If you hear this background noise that sounds like someone smashing through the door, kind of is. It's my dog trying to smash the glass door, and so I open it. Anyways, like I mentioned before, these podcasts, I record them. They're also video podcasts on YouTube. I record them in one go. There's no stopping. So from my living room to yours. Then step number 3 is schedule time out. And that's a major thing. That's a major thing that I literally had to practice for over a year until I finally managed to take an entire day off. So, we schedule everyone else over ourselves. If you look in your calendar, what you likely find in there, unless you're already switched onto that, is all your appointments. Oh, those, client here, my appointment there, doctor appointment there, work deadline here. It's all work. It's all like having to do life. Where's the time when are you going to spend time on yourself? Why is it not in your calendar? Because if it's not there, you don't give it the same priority as you give your work or your clients or any other appointments. And you can't pour from a glass that's empty. You can't pour from an empty cup. That's how you say it. So you got to make sure that you fill your own cup first with time for yourself. So make sure that you're scheduling time. It can be half an hour. It can be scheduling in 10 extra minutes every morning for your meditation. It can be scheduling in an hour every afternoon to read or spend time in nature or go for a surf or something like that. It could be something like, okay, every Tuesday I'm finishing work at 3 p.m. on the dot, no matter what, and head to the ocean. Whatever works for you and fits in with you. So for me, it was for a very long time, which has changed by now to a different day. But I used to try, like I said, it took me a year to actually get there. But then eventually I scheduled my entire Monday off, plus another half or a whole day on the weekend. That's because the nature of my work when I was first starting out, it was just so fluctuating, and it took me a while to really learn and say no, because I felt when I didn't have that many clients that I kind of got to take what's coming in, and that leads you to more desperation than actually inviting clients in from a place of empowerment and of abundance. You're coming from a place of scarcity. So, but also because I was really burning myself out and my work was so all over the show. It could be so very, very flexible with just weekend clients when tourism up down here is big for bodywork and things, and then next week 40 different times, and then a full week, and then an empty week, and so forth. Anyway, so I really needed it for my own peace of mind and my own well-being to schedule every Monday off, and that worked for me because I like to start my week with ease and have this space to actually take a breath first, to look at everything that's ahead in this week, to schedule, to plan, and then just take time for myself to restore myself so I can start ready to go with 120% from Tuesday morning. And again, that's how I did it. Everyone finds their own way. And from as soon as I started doing that, and I had clients asking me for Mondays and yoga classes on Mondays and coaching on Mondays, and I said, I'm sorry, Mondays I'm unavailable. And you don't owe anyone an explanation. Anyone ever. Like, you don't have to ever excuse yourself for not being available, especially in those scenarios. Like, social media already opens us up 24/7 week, 24/7 all the time. You know what I'm trying to say? We're so overly always available that people start to expect that that's the way. It doesn't take away your right to own your own time. Okay, so you don't ever owe anyone an explanation or an apology. It is what it is. Sorry guys, on Mondays I'm not available. Sorry, Tuesdays I'm open from 9 to 3. Okay. Number 4, after scheduling your time out, so do put it into your calendar. Circulate your energy and clear up your planner. That's a big one. Like, how often do we start to procrastinate or get really scattered or overwhelmed because there's just too many things on our plate? And how often does that have to do with stagnation? I, for example, have to clear out my calendar, and I make it a habit every 3 months, like my digital one. I use the Google Calendar. Because over time you just start to, create reoccurring appointments that might have changed, or reminders that are recurring that might have changed, and so forth. And if you don't take it out of your calendar, it looks so saturated and so busy and so overwhelming that creates this stagnant energy as well, and this overwhelm that makes you procrastinate and just underperform in what you're doing. Whether that's your work or whether that's your private life, it might hinder you from really switching off when you want to have time with your family or yourself, because you feel like there's this overwhelm going on in your calendar every time you open your phone. Or it might just really create this scatteredness while you're at work. So circulate your energy and clear up your planner. Go through that, make it a thing every few months or weeks or whatever, that you go through, delete what's not relevant anymore, declutter. And really declutter in any way. Perhaps you need to do that in your workspace, in your home space, whether it's a spring clean, whether it's, decluttering your wardrobe. Just get rid of any clutter in your home, in your work, in your digital files, to circulate energy and create more free space. The more free space you create, the more peace of mind you're going to get. Step number 5. Have dedicated times for yourself and do that consistently, which we already went into when we talked about step number 3, scheduling time out. But now make sure that doesn't happen like once on a blue moon. Or so many clients also come in and they never have any time for themselves. They're like, I go on this yearly 2-week holiday. It's like, wow, that's not, you can't fully neglect yourself for the entire year and then expect to make up for that with a 2-week holiday. Once you get onto that holiday, and I'm sure we all have experienced that, overworking ourselves and completely throwing our own wellness out of the window. And once we finally stop, we are actually so burnt out and exhausted that we spent this 2-week holiday to just do nothing and restore and recover and sleep and rest and just get our energy back instead of actually enjoying time off. So even if you only have 5 minutes every day, that will be more valuable than nothing throughout the whole year. And then you have your 2 weeks of holiday, or 4 or 6 weeks, or whatever it is. You need to have a consistent self-care practice in order to achieve more when you're doing things. Remember this thing that you can't fill from an empty cup. Keep refilling the cup. You don't refill your coffee can or your cup of coffee once a week. You're drinking it every day, so you need to make a new brew every day, or your tea or whatever it is. It's the exact same with your energy storage. You're using your energy every day. Fill it up, replenish it, nurture yourself. It's like if you didn't service your car for 30 years and you expect it to run for those 30 years without a problem, and then you're wondering why the engine is blowing up because you haven't serviced it. Your body works the exact same way, whether that's energetically, physically, or mentally. So do make sure that you dedicate time for yourself consistently, whether it's 5 minutes a day, best an hour every day of me time. That can look different every day, but me time for me is time where it's just things that bring you joy and happiness and peace of mind, and you're not seeking an outcome. Like, you're not painting because you're going to make money with this painting. You're painting for fun, just doing things for the sake of joy, for the sake of happiness, for the sake of being present in nature. Step number 6, leave space for life stuff. And I find that's a big one, which I already talked about in the first few steps, that a lot of us Vata Pitta folks, especially the Vata people, tend to have a million lists going. Been there, done that. Doesn't work for me. I end up having 10 lists. Half of them have the same stuff on them, and they just get lost and they overwhelm me even more. But overachievers and very ambitious people that have a lot of drive and are super creative tend to want to do all these things at once. And Pittas just smash through everything, do their work. Work is priority. Work. Vata people are just so, oh, a fluff. Oh, I could do this with this project. Oh my God, that could actually lead me to this project. That's me quite often. So I really have to pull my reins on and my reins tight. And then out of the sudden, those Vatas find themselves doing 10 things at the time and they don't actually complete a single project in whatever way, shape, or form that is, whether it's your private life, your family, or your work. So make sure that you get rid of those lists, or when you're writing lists, because it does work for some people, make sure you leave space. Never put much more onto your list than I would say, and I might even be generous because I'm also this Pitta Vata version, and there's this little ego in me screaming, no, you gotta get done more. Don't just write down 2 things, write down 3 or 4 at least. So let's say 3 or 4 things is plenty to write down onto your daily to-do list. Okay, don't overwhelm yourself. Not 7, 8, 10, 20. No way. Put it down to 3, maximum 4 things. And that might even include cooking dinner, preparing your lunch. Because quite often we overschedule ourselves. I've done that plenty of times, that I have clients all morning through, and then I'm massaging at midday, and I have coaching in the afternoon. And then halfway through a bodywork session, I realized, oh my God, I'm starving because I forgot to eat lunch again. And I scheduled my afternoon out, so I won't actually have time to make anything. So you're just eating some crap on the run. And it's just going to fluster you even more, drain your energy because you're not nourishing your body appropriately. So you're going to give even less than 90 or 80% the next time you start a project. And your energy storage is just going to deplete and deplete. Or Oja, some Ayurveda, which is your basically vitality and vigor. So make sure you leave space for life stuff. If you're writing lists, keep them short. Also, it gives you a sense of achievement because you can do 3 to 4 things a day, and you want to obviously write them down into doable, into little bites, okay, in bite size. So for example, for me, instead of writing down create your website, that's bullshit. That's going to take me 2 weeks to do that. So instead of making that one of my points a day, because it's ridiculous, if I do that, I automatically set myself up for failure, because creating an entire website for all my stuff within a day is not possible, even if dinner and lunch and breakfast didn't exist, but it does, so it's even more impossible. So as soon as you write that stuff on your list, you set yourself up for failing. And then in the end of the day, you check your list, you haven't gotten any of that done, or 1 or 2 things out of those 20, and you start beating yourself up. So it's a terrible mindset trap. So keep it down to bite-sized pieces and only 3 or 4 of these. So instead of writing down, do my website today, I would be like, okay, put client testimonials on website. Done. I can do that in, I don't know, an hour or 2. I can achieve that actually today, plus probably another 1 or 2 of those kind of tasks, and I will have accomplished my whole list, everything ticked off, and I feel this sense of accomplishment. Step number 7, change, if that's you, the mindset of that only paid work counts as work. We talked through all this by now, that so often we tend to keep busy for the sake of keeping busy, and it can probably be a big thing for a lot of you right now. I was in a similar position with the coronavirus going on, that a lot of people classified as non-essential, including all natural healthcare services. Surprise, different topic. A lot of businesses have lost their jobs, or people have lost their jobs, or have been put on hold because businesses have been classed as non-essential and there's no work. And so now some of you might find themselves in that position, or in the position where my business, for example, has really slowed down over that time, while my partner, who's a musician, that has slowed down, but he's also got the backup of carpentry, which is amazing. And trades are and always will be busy. It's the cornerstone of our society, living in fixed places instead of being hunters and gatherers. That's such an incredible skill to have, I think. So he's super busy with actual hardcore physical work, long days. And I had to pull myself back out of this mindset of feeling like I'm not doing enough only because I didn't have as much paid work at the time as he did. So then I just got into my own rat race of being busy all day and doing all these things around the house and in the garden. And even though I was just at home, which is what I was telling myself, I was actually not stopping. I was going non-stop from morning to night and still compared myself to him, until I put myself back out of this. I was like, man, Lena, what are you doing? That's ridiculous, because it's really not the case. But, you maybe that resonates with you too, that sometimes we resonate ourselves with, compare ourselves with people who do a paid job 80 hours a week, and you might actually be volunteering for 20 hours a week of your own time or something like that. So start to put value on any kind of work, on any kind of doing is doing, no matter what it is, no matter if it's paid with money or paid with a smile or as a favor, or if it's a bartering thing, or if you're just doing it for yourself. Any doing is being busy. It doesn't matter with what. So just as valuable, because you already went through step one, which is get clear on your priorities. What do you need to do? What lights you up doing? And what is really unnecessary. So don't waste your time with unnecessary stuff that doesn't make you feel good, but get down to your priorities that light you up, that improve your quality of life, and that make you feel good. And then you can chuck this comparison of only counting paid work as work right out of the window, if that's a mindset you find yourself in. And finally, number 8 is presence and mindfulness, which I also brought an example of already. So you want to realize that the more you are in the current moment, the more okay and fine the world is in that moment, and the less you therefore need. That's the example I brought earlier, when you instead of what society is instilling in us, like you have to work for 50 years and you have to own a house and pay the mortgage and have 2 kids and do all these things in order to feel happy, in order to then get a sense of self-worth, in order to then feel content, instead of all this, because that's all a result of worrying about the future, which means you're not in the present moment, or worrying about something that has happened in the past and projecting it into the future. So instead, using mindfulness and meditation or presence, or just, being more present, being in the here and now, and then see what you notice. When you're in the here and now, how's your body feeling right now? How's your environment feeling right now? How's your mind feeling right now? And you notice that right now, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter if there's a pandemic going on or not, or any other things, anything at work, but right now, while you're sitting here in nature, in the sunshine, under the tree, feeling the grass, feeling your heartbeat, feeling your breath, hearing the birds, life is fine. Right now is fine. And so now if you started living every moment like this, you can automatically take away a heap of worry. I just listened to a TED Talk which stated that it's 92% of the stuff we're worrying about is absolute bullshit, in the sense of it's never gonna happen. So fully unnecessary. So the more we can live in the present moment, the more worry we take away, the more overwhelm we take away, the more anxiety we take away, and therefore the